Hi everybody and welcome back to GTA Fancast on the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel with me, Gully, bringing you the first tactical review of the 21-22 season and the first one of the Bruno Lage era. Looking forward to some new ideas, some new trends, some new tactics, but of course, having watched the Celta Vigo friendly, which is going to be the first review that we do, I'm here to talk to you about 3-4-3, the limitations of the system, slow first halves, better second halves, a lack of pace at the back, and many other familiar traits. So we're looking at the last pre-season friendly against Celta Vigo, a decent level of opposition I think to end our pre-season schedule on. And I went to the game, I sat up in the North Bank to try and get the best kind of view of the pitch as I possibly can. Great to be back in Molineux for a start as well. And I think, to be honest, Bruno clearly is very much in the early days of assessing his squad, having a look at what he's got available to him. And he's come to the conclusion that he needs to stick with the back three system because that's what the club and the squad are familiar with until he can bring in some reinforcements and maybe implant his own ideas and his own thoughts on the game and shape in particular on the squad that he has available to him. So as we saw, 3-4-3 might not be the most natural fit for Nuno as a manager, but I think he's trying to make it work. And like I say, we just saw so many things from this game that were far too familiar, far too kind of Nuno-like in their appearance, which was a concerning sign, it has to be said. But when you look at the 11 that was out there, the only real change to that is in goal with Jose Sá and Francisco Trincao. So one of the real concerning things for me, and it really seemed to bear out when we were set up for goal kicks defensively. Vigo would have the ball with their goalkeeper, and as you can see here, the fullbacks are pushed on. We kept our front three quite narrow to stop them from playing short into their centre halves. Maybe it's something that we saw from Celta Vigo in other games that we expected them to do, but all that meant was, with this kind of fluid front four they had, Los Nolito, Iago Aspas, Denis Suarez, some really talented players to be fair to them that were playing in that, Santi Mina as well. They were occupying our back five basically entirely. The wing backs, Kion Hervend and Marcel, were sat far too deep, and Javi Galan and Hugo Mayo enjoyed quite good possession out from their goalkeeper. And we actually eventually conceded the penalty from a position where Hugo Mayo picks up the ball. Marcel isn't able to go out and press him high enough, early enough to stop him from turning back, not receiving it in the first place. And I just think if he stepped up 10 yards further, we all went a little bit man for man against these players, especially when the play was siphoned down to this side. We could have just done a little bit more to stop the play from building in these areas, because the other thing that ended up happening was, you know, one of these strikers, whether it be Aspas or Nolito, would then double up with the extra man against our central midfield when there's only two in there as a pair. Coutinho and Neves, we know, aren't the most mobile midfielders anyway, and they just got played around quite a bit, and everything was very reactive, impulsive, and just kind of chasing shadows in the first half. And as a result, we just couldn't get a foothold in the game, and we deserved, frankly, to go in 1-0 down. Now, moving on to the second half, as expected and as there should have been, there was a reaction. And I think anybody who saw Bruno on the touchline prowling in the first half would have noticed that he clearly wasn't pleased with the way his team was reacting to the way Celta Vigo were playing. I spoke about how the fullbacks were getting plenty of space and time to pick up the ball, turn and play. That kind of didn't get picked up on until probably about the 40th minute. I think I saw Marcel go out and actually press his man as the ball was approaching him, rather than him receiving the ball and being a little bit tentative and conscious that, you know, Celta Vigo had this kind of fluid front four who were able to go and occupy our three centre halves, plus Kiana Herber at times as well. But second half, you know, Bruno I think has the understanding that we don't have too much pace at the back, but Celta Vigo really weren't threatening him behind too much. Then they weren't lightning quick. They weren't going to, you know, be in on goal every time they played the ball through. So therefore, we were able to just step up a little bit onto everyone. And as they look to play out from the back in particular, you can see from some of these stills that I've got here, you know, Kiana Herber had a really good second half, absolutely, onto his man within a flash. He's really quite quick player, nice athleticism, and not a bad footballer either. And that just allowed these two guys in particular to get involved in the game higher up the pitch as well. We saw Dendonka having a shot at goal from the edge of the box. Neves playing a nice little ball into the channel for Traore to set up a chance as well. And then you just saw numbers flooding the final third as well. I think this just goes to show that we are still capable of being an attacking team from this shape. I think Bruno will hope to bring that to the team, and I believe personally that it's not going to take too much just to play a little bit more on the front foot and get points from games that we were kind of drawing narrow defeats in last season. So when you look at it from the perspective that maybe we might not be as resilient against the likes of the bigger sides that we were when Nuno was manager, getting those big results and picking up points where we weren't necessarily expected to. But against some of these other sides, when you've got the likes of Jimenez, Trincao, Traore, Neto when he's fit, Pedence when he's back, all as an attacking group, flying, all past all these defences and things, that's a group that a lot of teams will be envious of for sure. So, you've got to be trying to get the most out of those players. Sitting far too deep, it's not going to happen. And Neves had a really influential second half. Keanu Hervey, like I say, had a really good second half as well. And amazed that we didn't really get that equaliser that we probably deserved on our second half performance. But I'm expecting Bruno to really pick up on. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get any stats from this fixture anyway. But things like passes per defensive action, pressures in the middle third, pressures in the attacking third, I expect us to be way up on that. The other thing I think I noticed as well is that there will be less touches for the back three. There seems to be an onus on them to move the ball into the midfield much quicker, and then allow the midfield to go and get on the ball and dictate play a little bit more. We are trying to be a little bit more direct, to get the ball into feet and get the ball into these guys in a bit more space and against a less set defence, I think. And with the attacking talent that we have on display, I expect that to bear fruit. And while we might not tear up too many trees, I think the aim has to be a higher points total than net last season and more goals scored than last season. I think ultimately you can call that a job well done.